Why is there such a lack of formal NLP coaching for musicians? Because it's widely used in the athletic world, Olympic athletes, professional teams, to prepare the mind for competition. When you're waiting and that gun's going to go and you do your race, whatever happens in your mind is going to set you up for the results you get in that race. And it's no different to when we go on stage. And our mind will basically be in control of our results in an indirect way. So the way it works with NLP mindset is the way we talk to ourselves in our head talk will then create our behavior. So the way we talk to ourselves, the way we set up our minds will then result in our behaviors, which will result in the results we get.
All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Katie at Musicians Dystonia and Injury Live Talk. Thank you for everyone who's joined. I have Steve, and I'm just so glad to have him here tonight. We're going to be talking about the topic of performance mindset, especially anxiety here. So Steve, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here, and thank you for taking your time out of your day to do this with me.
Oh, thank you, Katie, for having me.
We're like an 18-hour time difference. It's really huge. It's like a whole day and a half or something. Could you tell us a little bit about like what got you into music in the first place? And then of course, you went into neuro-linguistic programming.
I grew up in San Diego, started playing tuba at the end of junior high school. At the same time, I learned the unicycle. So these were my two great life revelations at age 15. One of the things that I've been doing quite a bit of over the last 15 years is teaching globally. If the student's mind is not in the right place, it's going to be hard for them to develop. Then I was known as sort of like the mindset coach / tuba teacher. And then I decided to take the opportunity to study mindset coaching formally, which began with the Life Coaching Academy and getting a certificate in life coaching. And part of that was studying neurolinguistic programming. And then when I learned that, I thought, why is there such a lack, or why is there non-existence of formal NLP coaching for musicians? Because it's widely used in the athletic world. So if any of you were to right now Google NLP and sports, you'll get a lot. Olympic athletes, professional teams, to prepare the mind for competition. Whatever happens in your mind is going to set you up for the results you get in that race. And it's no different to when we go on stage. And our mind will basically be in control of our results in an indirect way. So the way it works with NLP mindset is the way we talk to ourselves in our head talk will then create our behavior in our language. It'll even affect things like blood pressure. And this is without focal dystonia, by the way, just shaking because you're nervous. So the way we talk to ourselves, the way we set up our minds will then result in our behaviors, which will result in the results we get.
Yeah,
And
can you talk a little bit about I love that you went into neuro-linguistic programming. Just briefly, maybe it's too broad of a question, but I was wondering, because I was reading a little bit about it, and it's kind of similar to cognitive behavioral therapy. But it seems like it's more interpersonal, like related. So it's like you're looking at more of the, like you were talking beforehand with me about how it's more present, future based.
that's right.
Is that the big difference between it?
There are a couple of different. So NLP stands for neuro linguistic programming. So we are programming or reprogramming the computer part of the brain by language. And this starts out with a NLP coach. Now, part of NLP, the language part, was developed by Milton Erickson, who is the father of modern hypnotherapy. We talk to ourselves with certain language patterns that will change the way the neural pathways in our brain operate. So absolutely, Katie, this is present to future based. It is coaching. It is not psychotherapy, where psychotherapy, if you go to see a psychiatrist, for example, they're medical doctors. And there might be something medically challenging with the mind that might need medication, or finding out something that happened of a trauma or something from childhood, or just it could be anything, it could be hereditary. And so psychiatrists are doctors, and they're fixing things that need to be fixed from something that has happened before now. Where coaching is about taking where we are now. What are our current challenges? I get nervous for auditions. I never got nervous before. For Mahler 1, I was almost freezing. I need help with my mindset here. Don't need to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I need mindset coaching. So then the mindset coach, NLP, would say, but wasn't there a time in the past where you'd go out and just be like, boom, strong-minded and full of confidence and play the best? Yes. And so what NLP does is we do go visit the positives of the past, and we replant them, and then add things from what we know now as an older, more mature person, to strengthen our mind to be very stoic. And we also talk about NLP's the mind being like a muscle. The mind is a muscle. So what I do to my coachees, the people that I'm coaching with NLP, I give them homework where they have to do mind strengthening exercises. And
I really
NLP
love that.
is, yeah.
I just want to say really quickly before you move on, when you're talking about the present to future kind of involved in this, I love that because like we were talking beforehand, Steve and I have caught up beforehand, you guys, but I love how we were kind of talking about how yeah, there's kind of this thin line with musicians where when we go into our studies, we're kind of taught how to critically think about our playing, and somewhere along that timeline, it goes from, you know, this enjoyment of playing, of being on stage and enjoying playing and the process involved of learning and growing, to, oh my gosh, I really don't like this. Like I have this fear now of going on stage and playing, and I don't know what's happening. And I like that it addresses that because like a lot of people, it's like um, they don't know where that derives from. They're like, where did I cross that line? When did it happen? What are some common things that you find with musicians who come to you for help? What are some maybe some mindsets they have challenges with? I know that anxiety is a really big one. Is there anything else you've noticed as well?
Well, what I do with my clients or coachees is they are all special, amazingly talented. They're geniuses because they're professional musicians primarily. They're not all professional musicians, but most are. And a lot of time that genius and the inspiration that got them to where they are now in their position happened maybe when they were in their early 20s. What we do is we presently dive into that genius. That genius is still there, because a lot of people will say, I used to never get nervous, but now I get nervous. And as a coach, I would say that part that you have, and you have it, you think you had it, that made you not get nervous, you still have it. Let's dig it out. We might have to dig deep. And when we dig deep, this is something that we're doing in the present. We are digging out that genius. It's there. And then we bring it out to the top, and that stuff that's covering it, the doubt, the fear factor, the anxiety, we throw that away. We get rid of it. And also the way the mind works is the mind is always full of things. And this is where things like the inner game of music and the inner game of tennis are great resources to supplement all this NLP coaching, is that rather than telling yourself not to think of something, this is old cliche, right? Don't think of the flying pink elephant when you think of it. You think of something else. So what the NLP will do is it will bring out that genius. What is the best part of you? What makes you special? And we're going to bring that out, and we're going to make it grow. And by present, this person is now an older, wiser, more experienced person, will be able to control this muscle. and bring this out. And one more thing on NLP and why it is special is it goes beyond just the mimicking and modeling. That is basically the bulk of the philosophies like the inner game of tennis, where you copy a tennis movement and you don't think about what muscles are moving. You visualize that person. So for me as a kid, it was John McEnroe, and I was on the tennis team in high school, and I would visualize moving like John McEnroe, and it works. And that is a form of modeling. But what NLP does is it goes into all the senses, not just what it looks like, what it feels like, what is smelled. So I just recently worked with somebody in their 60s who says, early 60s, fantastic professional musician, but says, I'm getting these little doubts and mini panic attacks that I didn't get when I was younger. And so what the NLP technique will do, and what I did with this person, is we bring them back to that point in time where it was really, really great. And they close their eyes and we go through a little semi-hypnosis, a little bit, and they relive that whole experience. And then what comes out? Certain smells. I said, yeah, I was in this room and I smelled this. And what about colors? Yeah, I saw red, but it was the red of the curtains. Forget it was the curtains. You saw red. Explain the red. What about sounds? And they'll say, silence. And then we give them a little mantra or something for them to take when they get into that later on in their 60s. They're about to feel nervous. When they have their rest and they can do their breathing and their calming and what they do, smell that smell from when they were really victorious. Just smell it.
I love that.
See the colors and hear the silence. And this is the discussion we had before, Katie, where people tend to be more inclined to feel things, to be auditory, digital, have to figure out things, see things, hear things. So each coachee or each person is individual. This is where the coach will identify what is the primary senses and how they're experiencing things.
Yeah.
And then that's how we use the coaching process.
That's really wonderful. Thank you so much for explaining that in full detail. And I love that you brought up the senses. And I like that you brought up the senses, everything, because I think we forget about that. And when I think about my youth, like when I played music and I enjoyed playing in front of others, like how much I wasn't lost in this whole I have to do this correctly or else like type of mindset. And it was much more about the full kinesthetic, well, not kinesthetic, but the whole experience with the senses and everything. And I love that that's what you do. And
Great.
Is there any last parting words you'd like to say?
Well, people out there might not be aware of my Mindset for Creative community that everybody is welcome to join. It's free. Basically, what you get is you get something from me through your email on videos, tips, podcast links, whatever. Everything mindset for anybody who might be creatively minded.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve, so much for joining me today. We're going to go ahead and log off here.
Thank you, Katie. I look forward to having another conversation with you very, very soon.
All right. Thank you, Steve, so much.
Thanks, Katie.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.